What's going on, YouTube? Real quick, as you can see, I got this mic on. Bought it from Amazon last week. I'm in a city where it's pretty windy. So there's a lot of turbulence, and some of the feedback from the wind kind of debunks my vocals, obviously, as I'm recording. So I got this mic to try to mitigate some of that, but currently I'm not using it. I got it from Amazon for like 45 bucks. I thought it'd be something worth spending. I'm not sure if I'm using it right, but it's a simple receiver plug into my phone via USB-C, and I just turn it on, and it connects. But it sounds choppy, and I don't like the debasing of my voice. I'm not sure if it's more tailored to be used for indoors, like sitting down, maybe walking around 5-10 feet away max, for good vocal production. But I put my phone down and I talked with the mic on, and after maybe 25-50 feet, you can't even hear it. So this may not be an outdoor mic. Anyway, to the video. They taught us wrong. What does that mean? They taught us wrong. As I enter my 30s, right? I still got time to figure things out, I guess. But as I enter my 30s, I'm just trying to see like how this world works. I'm trying to see how to properly maneuver in a world like this, in a time like this, in an economy like this, where there's a lot of socialism, classism, obviously there's still prejudices going on, racism in different parts of the country still going on, different parts of the world, of course. There's a lot of things that's going on, right? Good and bad. I'm kind of highlighting more of the negative in this video. So if you're interested to hear kind of what that means by they taught us wrong, in my opinion, from my experiences and from what I see other people experience with, stay tuned. Like, subscribe, and follow me on this. You're in school for like, if you don't drop out, anywhere between the age of 5 for kindergarten. Some people start kindergarten at 4 in different states, and usually are done at high school anywhere between 16 and 18. So you're in school for close to 15 years. You're in school for at least a decade. You're in school for at least a decade between elementary and high school, where it's up to 4 parties on whether or not you're going to be set up to become an independent asset to first the society and the environment you're in, and eventually to the family that you will create. Those 4 parties I mentioned is the parents, your parents, right? If you're the student, your parents, your teachers, who's teaching you day to day, more so of the academics. You have any kind of secondary parties who I think promote a bigger impact in your life, like coaches, pastors, different members of your community, like volunteers, things in that nature, things along those lines. They don't need to be in your face necessarily day to day. Again, if you play a sport, you do a hobby, you're a part of a club, you're part of a group, like those parent, teacher, like father, mother figures in your life, who again, I think are more important than the 2 out of 4. I named the last one in a second, is impactful, is powerful. And then the 4th person is yourself, right? We develop at our own pace. The environment, again, those teachers, your parents, and those secondary non-day-to-day, elders, people who have experience in the different things that you're doing in your life. I forgot to say, like, guidance counselors, right? People like that who are not teaching you directly academics, but they teach you right and wrong in different ways. They teach you life lessons, right? Outside of all that, you yourself is your biggest enemy and your biggest cheerleader. So those 4 parties, including yourself, are involved in making you a better you. It's setting you up for success to where you know how to get a job, to where you know how to maintain your job. You know how to assimilate to a few environments or cultures, like basic day-to-day stuff that will not just keep you afloat, but constantly keep you in a mind of learning and adaptation, no matter what job, culture, race, for the most part. So it's pretty gravy, right? It makes sense. It sounds good. As long as you have those people in your corner, you're straight. And as long as you're a pretty self-driven person, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. But they taught us wrong still. They taught us wrong because in this type of economy or world, I'll broaden out my language here. In this environment we call life, this big environment we call life, you know, we're taught what's right and wrong. We're taught left and right. We're taught up and down. We're taught, you know, black, white. We're taught poor, rich. We're taught A and Z. You know, we're taught that you're born, you die. We're never taught that gray area, right? That gray area is mystical for a lot of us. But people who either experience two sides, right, of the spectrums of life, or maintaining the gray area, usually tends to see the most success. You know, but we're taught either this or that. There's no middle line. We're taught this is the way you go, because if you go this way, you know, most people don't go that way, right? That's kind of how I sum it up. You know, I'm not finna make this a whole 2-3 hour thing, because I could talk about this type of subject all day. But you know, school, taking it back to school, right, with the 4 parties introduced in a child's life, right, before they turn 18, even after 18, like, we're taught to show up, be attentive, listen, be social, take up a hobby, take up a trade, learn a language, be good, not have sex in some schools. If you're in some private schools or religious-based schools, you're taught to pray. Like, we're taught kind of day-to-day things that we should be doing and we should not be doing. Right? You know, with the academics, we're taught different dates with science and history, formulas with math, we're taught how to write. So we're taught some key things along with academics that we will still use throughout the entirety of our life. But some of that gray area stuff, that's up to you and your personal circle to kind of figure out. Like, what does that look like? Like, you know, like, what if I'm very, very smart, intelligent, book savvy, but I don't want to go to college because it doesn't make sense to me? You know, there's people in your corner who's been seeing you get a 3.5 or 4.0 GPA, middle school onwards, acing everything, be one of the smartest people in your class, but you don't want to go to college, or you go to college and you drop out, right? Obviously that's not an anomaly anymore, but things don't just have one direction. And a lot of times in school, we're taught that it does. We're taught that you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, or you start a family, you develop that family, maintain, you work on your job, and you try to excel and climb the political or corporate ladder, governmental ladder, depends on the industry or sector you're in. And then you hopefully will retire between 60 and 70 years old. Some are lucky if they can even retire, and some are lucky if they can retire early. But that's the direction. And then you'll collect SSI, If you're smart enough or opportunistic, you have a 401k. This is the standard. We're not taught really nothing else as far as the main direction. You know, maybe the teachers that we have implemented in our life don't know it themselves, you know, but there's a school board and there's different governmental agendas where a syllabus and a program is made up. Why are we not taught certain things? Why are we, you know, we're not taught credit. We're not honed or tuned in to different cultural learnings outside of just learning a language like Spanish or French, where you're not really learning. You're learning from another person who's learned the language themselves, you know, but you're not really learning the culture. You're not introduced to the culture. You know, maybe there's not enough funding for that, but you know, a lot of things that we're not taught in school, and I'm talking about school because we're so young, we're so impressionable, we're like a baby continually developing, you know, even into our mid-teen, like we're continually developing and learning, you know, so we get desensitized to a lot of stuff, and you know, some people can get overstimulated, but there's a lot of things going on here that affects the physical, that affects us socially, financially, that affects us spiritually. There's a lot of things going on to where the day-to-day itself just becomes hard because we're trying to grow, but there's so many environmental factors, you know, we're not taught, we can't be taught everything. It's not possible, you know, it's not possible to be taught everything. You know, it's not possible to be everything that you can be if the world ain't set up for it. I believe that the environment has to give back somehow, some way for you to succeed. You know, like when you buy a house, you can do all this stuff to your house, but if the market value in your area ain't increasing, you can't really, your house won't really appraise. You can put all this stuff in your house and you're basically bringing negative equity if other people aren't getting their houses appraised close to you, if they're not selling, if they're not renting it out, if the area is not being built up, right? Like, it don't matter, you know? There's environmental factors that affect our growth and our experiences, mostly the positive ones. Those factors have to happen. People could be smart as crap. I know people personally who have master's, doctorates, right? Masters and doctors are seeming so popular now. It just seems like a lot of people just stay in school longer, from my opinion. But there's just, people still don't have jobs. You know, like you can't get a job. Like, it's just crazy. So you could do all this stuff. You could prepare yourself, right? You could be isolated in your room, study, do all this stuff, know how to write the best cover letter, resume, market yourself well. But you're just preparing for the opportunity. The environment has to bring that opportunity. Or you may have to change your environment, which a lot of people aren't willing to do. You may have to move out of state. You may have to move out of the country, right? Because like the environment helps or hurts you. And school ain't teach us that. Our parents don't really teach us that. Our teachers, those coaches and stuff in our life, you know, don't really teach us that. Like, we deal with kind of the day-to-day now. You know, we try to make everything intertwined. You know, you gotta listen to your teachers, as the parents will say. Teachers, like, you gotta be good at home, listen to your parents. Those guidance counselors, coaches, pastors, you know, you guys gotta be disciplined, you know, stay out of trouble type stuff, right? But I'm like, what if my parents have me in a trouble-filled environment? What if I have a learning disability? Like, it's hard. Like, we're not able to just stay in the gray area all that time because we need the environment to help us. We need the environment to be that fifth party for us, you know? The environment matters. What they didn't teach us is that your environment matters, not just in school, through your entire life. The environment. Education ain't finna debunk the environment. Praying ain't finna debunk the environment. Having all this money ain't finna debunk the environment. Being fit ain't finna, like, it's not gonna put you in the best situation. You gotta maneuver a little bit. You gotta switch up a little bit. You gotta maybe live here, maybe live there. You gotta maybe experience something else. You gotta maybe go back to the drawing board and change your career. Like, it's crazy, you know? You gotta maybe leave those people you knew for 10 years alone. Like, school doesn't teach kind of that separation or that isolation factor sometimes, or you know, you're stable. They're teaching us to be stable workers with a goal that's becoming more out of sight. You know, give back to your community, give back to your environment, but the environment has to give back to us. The community has to give back to me. Like, there's a stronghold. There's a stronghold. So I hope I'm making sense. You know, it's just stuff I think about. It's just stuff I think about. Again, like I said, I live up here sometimes. I live up here every day. And it's good, and it's good and bad. It's hard. Like, you want to progress and get better, but it seems like life won't let you. Don't matter what you've done, no matter what someone has taught you, it seems like a lot of the times it don't work. And it's like we keep getting taught wrong. I keep seeing the same things happening. It's not even like the wheel is being reinvented. The thing not even spinning no more. It don't spin. Like, I don't know. It's beautiful out here, man. You know, I love it. I'm so, man, I just want to get closer to nature, closer to the outdoors. I just want to soak up. I want to soak up the environment. I want to just kind of just listen to the wind sometimes and have the environment be that fifth party for me. Like, let me just see what the world is saying from a natural perspective. Not the world, not with social media and all these people and all this stuff. Like, you know, success and progression is definitely relative. It is subjective. So, you know, people have to understand that and find their way. You know, I'm not so much for this is what you got to do in your 20s, this is what you got to do in your 30s, this is what you got to do in your 40s, this is what you got to be in your 50s, this is where you got to be in your 60s. That don't necessarily matter, you know? Because it puts pressure on people. And if people aren't in the right environment, they're going to give up or they're going to miss the mark. They're going to feel like they're late to the party. Feel like they're late to the show. Feel like they're not doing enough. And obviously there's people who's not doing enough, and there's people who's doing too much, right? I mean, it's all about that gray area. How can we maneuver in this ever really changing world? It changes. The world be changing like every 5 to 10 years. There's some places where things are changing yearly, you know, so we can never really, I don't know, we can never really just pinpoint. We just gotta just make it make sense to us. Figure out the situation we're in, figure out where we think we want to be, and get to it. But it's never really a destination. And for me, for going back to the school aspect, because again, that's where we spend a lot of our time, in school. Geez, like people who go to college, they now have spent. There's a lot of people who spent close to a quarter century of going to school, excelling in different areas, from kindergarten to the doctorate. You know, you're in school for almost 25 years, man. That's crazy. So if you could land a job, you make a lot of money. You could have some stability in your finances and in your career. You could. There's possibility. But there's a lot of isolation that happened. So, you know, there's a lot of isolation that you had to do. There's a lot of sacrifice that you had to do. Which, I get it. If that's your goal, cool. If that's what you want to do, cool. And you'll know how to maneuver after that fact. Like, if there's a goal for you, a goal, it will drive you to isolate or entertain. So I'm not saying that. If you're goal driven, if you're driven by something that you want to accomplish or get or be at, then you do what you got to do to get to that goal, you know. But the overall premise of life in arriving somewhere because someone said you should arrive somewhere is false. Because the world ain't set up like that. The environment a lot or most people are in ain't set up that way. So use this basic encouragement. You know, again, we're gonna all be accountable for each other, and we're gonna use this as basic encouragement to, yes, define your plans, define your goals, define your accomplishments, but it's okay to rework that shit. It's okay to maneuver. It's okay to feel a little isolated. It's okay to, you know, entertain certain social groups for a while. Like, it's okay to try things, you know, like, it's okay. And I feel like I just wish I knew that earlier. Like, because time is time. It don't matter. It don't matter. Okay, you spent a year, 5 years, you know, feeling like you messing up. You weren't really there mentally, like you may be there now as far as hindsight goes. But, you know, there's time. We're living, breathing, don't have any really serious health issues. I mean, it's time. You got some time to figure it out. It don't really matter the age. Age is relative. It's just really about what you want to do. What you want to do will drive your time. So your time to get there. So use that as motivation. Like I'm going to use that as motivation. Because I just be sitting there thinking about certain things, seeing people with certain degrees, seeing people who have not, what they've done in the past. That, you know, I'm not going out here door to door, you know, statistically looking at things. I'm just in my day-to-day, just driving around, dealing with my kids, dealing with my wife, you know, in the neighborhood, outside the neighborhood, you know, going to my son's school, you know, going to the doctor's, the dentist's office, like just different stuff. And, you know, you just hear people very, very briefly, and you're passing by, just going through life. And depending on the type of time you are passing by them, it's good, bad, or in between. And that's life. Life is figuring it out. That's it. Never really a real destination. You just figuring it out as you go and try to enjoy being in the moment sometimes. Be focused sometimes, laugh sometimes, cry sometimes, and just figure it out. So I don't know, guys. This is something in my head. I'm hoping I've touched somebody in the way that it made you just think, even though if I may not be making sense, but maybe it just allows someone to think about something. So if I did that, please hit the like button for me, comment, and subscribe. And we're gonna keep getting to it. This is a life documenting journey. And in the interim, we're gonna spread some motivation and keep it pushing. So, to the next video, peace.